Have you ever sent a message, poured your heart into it, maybe even reread it a dozen times before hitting send, and then just waited? Hours passed, then a full day, maybe two, and instead of simply feeling frustrated, you started spiraling. You replayed every word you wrote. You questioned your tone, your timing, your intentions. You started wondering what you did wrong, even when you knew, deep down, that you had done nothing wrong at all. That silence crept in like a slow fog, and suddenly it was everywhere, sitting heavy on your chest, following you into your sleep, making you feel invisible and somehow guilty at the same time. If that feeling sounds familiar, you are not alone. That particular kind of silence, the kind that feels loud and suffocating all at once, is one of the most painful things a person can experience in any relationship. But here is something most people never stop to consider. That silence you are sitting with, the one making your stomach turn and your mind race, it is not always what it appears to be. We are taught to think of silence as neutral, as absence, as nothing. But silence can be one of the most powerful tools one person uses over another. Not all silence is innocent. Not all silence is accidental. Some silence is calculated. Some silence is deliberate. Some silence is carefully designed to make you feel a very specific way, to make you feel small, uncertain, and desperate for relief. And the terrifying part is that the person using it does not have to say a single word to completely control how you think, how you feel, and what you do next. That is the kind of silence we need to talk about today. Knowing the difference is where everything begins. There are two very different kinds, and confusing them can cost you your peace of mind. The first is natural silence. This is when someone is genuinely overwhelmed, processing something difficult, or simply needs time alone to recharge. This kind of silence is healthy, human, and has nothing to do with punishing you. The second is strategic silence. This is something else entirely. Strategic silence is deliberate. It is calculated. It is used as a tool, not to find peace, but to shift the balance of power between two people. One person goes quiet, and the other is left spinning, questioning, and reaching. One person withdraws, and the other is left feeling like they did something terribly wrong. The silence is the weapon, your anxiety is the target, and your desperate need for their approval is exactly what they are counting on. Strategic silence is not about needing space or time to think. It is a deliberate move, carefully timed and emotionally calculated. Certain people use silence not to process their feelings, but to send you a message without saying a single word. And that message is this: fall in line or keep waiting. They go quiet because they know it works. They know that the absence of their attention will make you spiral, second-guess yourself, and come crawling back just to restore the connection. It is not emotional withdrawal. It is emotional leverage. They are not hurting. They are watching. It is simply human biology being exploited by someone who knows exactly how to use it. The answer lives deep inside your brain's wiring. Human beings are psychologically built to seek resolution. We are wired for closure. When a conversation ends naturally, your nervous system settles. But when resolution is deliberately withheld, your brain treats it like an unfinished threat. It cannot simply move on. Instead, it fixates. Your mind starts running through every possible explanation, every word you said, every moment that might have caused the disconnection. Anxiety spikes almost immediately. The silence becomes a leash, and most people do not even realize they are wearing one. It has a name because it is a recognized pattern, and naming it matters. Withholding attention is when someone deliberately pulls back their warmth, their communication, and their emotional presence. Not because they genuinely need space, but because they want to regain control. It almost always happens right after a disagreement, right after you voice an opinion they did not like, or right after you do something that shifts the balance of power slightly in your favor. The withdrawal is not accidental, it is timed, it is intentional. The manipulator is not processing their feelings in private. They are sending you a message without saying a single word. That silence did not appear randomly. It arrived the exact second you reclaimed your power. You are in a relationship, a friendship, or maybe a work dynamic, and one day you finally do it. You speak up. You say no to something that did not sit right with you. Maybe you told your partner you needed more respect. Maybe you told a friend their comment crossed a line. Maybe you pushed back on a colleague who kept taking credit for your work. And for a brief moment, it felt good. It felt like you. Then the silence came. No response, no acknowledgement, just a wall of cold, deliberate quiet. And suddenly, that confidence you felt just moments ago starts to crack. What makes strategic silence so dangerous is not just how it feels in the moment, but what it does to you over time. Every episode of being shut out leaves a mark. Your brain begins connecting the dots, learning that expressing yourself, setting a boundary, or simply disagreeing leads to emotional withdrawal. So gradually, almost without realizing it, you start adjusting your behavior. You speak less honestly. You hold back opinions. You swallow frustration before it even reaches your throat. You become smaller, quieter, more careful, not because you want to, but because some part of you is desperately trying to avoid that cold, suffocating silence again. This is behavioral rewiring in action. The manipulation does not need words or threats. The silence itself becomes the training mechanism, conditioning you to prioritize someone else's comfort completely over your own needs, voice, and sense of self. The cycle then resets, ready to be triggered again the next time you step out of line. The silence creates anxiety. That anxiety makes you uncomfortable, restless, desperate for resolution. So you chase. You reach out. You over-explain. You soften your tone. You shrink yourself just to get things back to normal. And the moment you do that, you have handed over complete control. Now here is the part that makes this cycle so insidious. Every time you come back apologizing, especially for something you never even did wrong, you are reinforcing the entire system. You are teaching the other person that silence works, that it brings you back, that it keeps you in line. They do not even need to say a word. They just have to go quiet, and you will do all the emotional labor for them. These patterns are deliberate, not accidental. There are clear warning signs, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. First, notice if the silence appears immediately after you set a boundary or speak up for yourself. That timing is not a coincidence. Second, pay close attention to whether the silence suddenly ends the moment you cave, apologize, or give in. If the quiet disappears the instant you surrender, that silence was never about needing space. It was about winning. Third, watch for a cold or distant demeanor when you are physically in the same room. That icy presence, the short answers, the avoidance of eye contact, that is silence with a body. It is designed to make you feel invisible until you comply. That is survival mode dressed up as a relationship, and you deserve so much more than that. It does not arrive like a dramatic confrontation. It creeps in slowly, reshaping who you are from the inside out. You start doubting yourself constantly, replaying every conversation, every word, every tone, wondering where you went wrong. You begin second-guessing your instincts, your feelings, even your right to have needs at all. And then something even more painful happens. You start shrinking. You soften your opinions before you speak them. You swallow your boundaries before they even form. Recognition is not just awareness, it is resistance. And it starts with one crucial step, spotting the pattern. You cannot change what you do not recognize. Most people caught in this cycle are so consumed by the anxiety of the silence that they never stop to ask a simple but transformative question. Is this happening on purpose? Start paying attention to the timing. Does the silence appear right after you speak up, set a boundary, or express a need? Does it vanish the moment you apologize or back down? That is not coincidence. That is a pattern. And here is what makes this step so powerful. The moment you name what is happening, something shifts inside you, and that changes everything about the dynamic moving forward. This one is harder than it sounds, because everything inside you is screaming to fix it, to reach out, to apologize, to do whatever it takes to break the silence. But here is what you need to understand. Every single time you chase someone who is using silence to control you, you are not showing love or maturity. You are rewarding the behavior. You are essentially handing them a manual that says, "This works on me, do it again." And they will, because why would they stop something that consistently gets them exactly what they want? Your attention, your compliance, your surrender. When you withdraw the chase, you remove the incentive entirely. The silence no longer produces the desired result. Now comes the third step, and this one changes everything. Flip the dynamic entirely. When someone uses silence to control you, they are counting on a specific reaction. They expect anxiety. They expect you to spiral, shrink, and come crawling back. That reaction is the whole point. It is what keeps the cycle alive. But what happens when you do not give them that? When you respond with calm, quiet self-assurance and an absolute refusal to shrink, something shifts. The silence suddenly has nowhere to land. It loses its grip because the grip only works when you are holding on. You are not suppressing your emotions here. You are simply choosing not to hand someone else the remote control to your inner world. The moment you stop playing the game, you are no longer the one being controlled. And that is not stubbornness. That is freedom. Here is the truth. They do not want you to realize. Their silence was never about something being wrong with you. It was always about keeping you small enough to control. Every moment you spent questioning yourself, rewriting messages, and shrinking your needs was a moment their power over you grew stronger. But now you see it clearly. The silence was never a reflection of your worth. It was a confession of their insecurity.